Brian Truzzi here with Chesterfield County Department of Parks and Recreation, and today we are at historic Castlewood, located at the corner of Krause and Iron Bridge Roads, right in the heart of Chesterfield here, very close to the Chesterfield Museum Complex. And as we're going to have a chance to see here today, Castlewood is truly one of the more remarkably historic sites that Chesterfield County interprets and preserves. This particular site here is both a county and a state landmark and is also listed on the National Register of Historic Places. And it exemplifies a very unique 5-bay design with a large central portion, which we are standing in the center part of the house now. And adjoining this center section here are two small hyphens that would have connected two wings to the house. Now, this house was not built until 1817 by Parke Poindexter, who was clerk of Chesterfield County's courts from 1812 until his death in 1847. And this federal period style house is truly unique. There's only a couple other homes like it built within the state of Virginia here. And this particular house and ground once was owned by Henry Winfrey, dating back to 1754. And he owned this property up until 1816 when he sold 180 acres to Parke Poindexter, in which he started to construct Castlewood. Now, it's interesting to note that when Parke Poindexter started this house, it was not referred to as Castlewood at that point. Very similar to what we know about Eppington Plantation, very similar situation here. This house was actually known as the Poindexter House, or sometimes referred to as the Old Parsonage. It is believed that the name Castlewood was not coined for this house until the early 1920s, when the Lumpkin family actually inherited the property, and they lived here at Castlewood for nearly 40 years. So if you join me, we will take a tour of the house and allow you to be able to view a lot of the beautiful architecture throughout. The land on which Castlewood was built was granted to Henry Winfrey in 1754 and remained within the family until 1816, when he sold approximately 180 acres to Parke Poindexter, who built the house. Poindexter served as clerk of Chesterfield County Court from 1812 until his death in 1847. And when Poindexter died, the land was sold to William Howlett, and numerous individuals utilized the house for their private residence. The unique concept of Castlewood is the aspect of its architecture. This is a federal period style house that resembles a 5-part design in its construction and is one of only 2 houses like it in the state of Virginia. You have a large central portion of the house separated by 2 small hyphens on both sides, which are connected with 2 large wings. The wing to the far left, the northern wing, was actually an addition from an earlier house that was moved to the site and added on to the original house. The wing to the south part here, to the right, actually has a staircase that leads upstairs and a widow's walk that lead to the 2 dormer windows upstairs. And the dormer windows on the south wing are larger than the dormer windows on the east wing, and the interior architectural design of the south wing would not have been finished when the house was initially constructed. Castlewood was built in 1817 by Parke Poindexter, and as we will see when we go inside, has very unique architecture and beautifully preserved throughout the house. Okay, so we are in the north wing of Castlewood right now, and this is the wing that actually would have been an addition to the original house. It was not originally part of the design. This wing was actually saved from an earlier dwelling and was actually moved here to the site to add on to the main house. And this wing predates the other sections and was going to be one of the older parts of the house. And if you'll notice on the mantle, it has elaborate woodwork that is not matched anywhere in the house that we'll have a chance to see. The highlight of the room is the mantle with beautiful fluted pilasters, which basically adorn each side of the brickwork here, directly below the mantle. There's beautiful recessed panel wainscoting that runs all the way around the room, and beautifully detailed reeded chair rail that exists here as well. And on either side of the mantle, you have these two doors which originally would have been closet spaces here in this room. In the far southwest corner of this room, we have a very unique L-shaped stairway that provided the only access to the upper part of this wing here. And directly up top, we have one particular dormer room space that would have been used for dwelling when the families lived here. This unique component of this wing is so unique that we will not see that anywhere else in the house. Okay, so we are now standing in the north hyphen, which actually joins the north wing with the central part of the house. And there are a few very unique architectural elements to point out here in this small hyphen. One of the aspects are the embellished dentil moldings that basically run on either side, right at the bottom part of the ceiling lip here. And this would have been really intricate detail that could have only been performed by very skilled and detailed craftsmen during that time period. One other unique thing is the ceiling itself, which is referred to as a barrel vaulted ceiling, and it almost resembles like the inside of a large barrel here. Instead of a flat ceiling, it is a barrel ceiling, and directly below that, you're looking at the original exterior part of the house. This is the original beaded weatherboard on the original central section of the house, and this north wing would have been added directly up against this here. And it's a very rare opportunity to be able to experience something like that. And once again, this is one of the unique components that makes the architecture of Castlewood here very unique. You have the transom windows directly above the doorway here that leads from the hyphen to the central part of the main house. Okay, so we are standing in the parlor room here of Castlewood, and some unique components to the architecture of this room here. You'll notice the two handsome elliptical arched recesses on either side of the mantel here that presently serve as bookcases today. And up top, they are capped with molded keystones. So we have beautiful symmetry here in this room on either side of the mantel. And the south bookcase originally contained an exterior door to Castlewood, which was eventually closed off in the middle part of the 20th century. And these recessed areas now serve as beautiful bookcases. The mantel that we have directly in between these two bookcases here has more very unique architecture. The detailed dental work up towards the top of the mantel here, and surrounding the fireplace we have beautiful King of Prussia marble that we will also find as a surround to the fireplace down in the south wing here. Surrounding all the way around the bottom part of the walls here, you have beautiful wainscoting recessed wainscoting, and a very detailed chair rail here as well. And the parlor was designed to be an elaborate area here for families and friends to gather after meals. Okay, so we are now in the south wing of Castlewood, and this particular wing here is going to be have a variety of different embellishments to the design of the architecture here that we won't find in any other room in the house. And this wing was actually built later than the other sections of the house. And in this wing here, you'll notice the large windows with 6/6 window panes. That is very different from what we saw in the north wing of the house. And directly above the ceiling here would be a widow's walk that would lead from the exterior of the central section to the living space directly above this room, and would have 2 larger dormer windows to provide a lot of natural light. Now, the decoration here on the south wing is believed to have been completed in 1835, and postdates the construction of the two wings here in this house. A lot of the elaborate decoration you'll see here is provided in the mantle directly above the fireplace here. We have beautiful Corinthian colonnettes right underneath the mantle itself, surrounded by miniature Ionic columns on the top portion of the mantle, and then running down both sides of the King of Prussia marble, you have larger versions of those Greek Ionic columns, followed by reliefs of 2 pineapples inset on both ends of the mantle itself. And the architecture of the mantle carries throughout the room here as well, because directly above the window frames here, you have miniature versions of those Ionic columns, along with acanthus leaf reliefs added in there, and more of the fluted pilasters like we saw in the north wing of the house. Wrapping around the interior here, you have beautiful wainscoting and a reeded chair rail directly below the bottom part of the window frames. And directly above our heads is one of the more unique and interesting reliefs here, because you have a beautiful plaster ceiling with a highly enriched decorative band that carries all the way around the edges of the ceiling here, and the detail work directly above the ceiling, above the chandelier, is an indication that this was a room in which the guests of the family members here would be entertained. And having this large wing along with the north wing of the house gave the families who lived here ample opportunities and places to entertain their guests. We're now standing in the south hyphen here, attaching the south wing to the main section of the house. And one of the unique design concepts here of Castlewood is when you enter the center part of the house, you actually have to step down to a separate level to get into the south hyphen and the actual south dining room, where the rest of the first floor is all on one level here. And also keep in mind that this south hyphen and the wing would not have been completed until 1835, a good 20 years after Parke Poindexter started the construction of the house here. Some of the unique designs we have here, you have the dental molding work directly above the bottom part of the ceiling here. And in the south hyphen, you have a elliptical vaulted ceiling, very similar to what we saw in the north hyphen on the other edge of the house here. But one of the more elaborate designs is directly above the chandelier, this beautiful acanthus leaf plaster ornament. which is indicative of very skilled craftsmanship and a point that Mr. Poindexter wanted to be able to make and provide a very elaborate entranceway to the south wing here of the house. And it is the only portion of the house in which it is not on the same level with the rest of the first floor here. So when Parke Poindexter passes in 1847, the house would actually be passed down through various different families who utilized the house as their private residences here. And in 1860, George Noley, who owned the house, sold approximately 30 acres to a Methodist Episcopal church who utilized the house as a parsonage for traveling ministers. And this house was actually used for approximately 12 years, from 1860 to 1872, for that purpose. In 1877, the trustees of the Methodist parsonage sold the land to Martin Harnish. And in the 19th and 20th centuries, a number of individuals would call Castlewood home here. In 1890, the property was sold to John Anderson and then would be transferred to the Pilkington family. And it was during this time period, in 1917, that the land was transferred to the Lumpkin family. And they lived here in this house for nearly 40 years. And in 1954, the house was remodeled throughout, including a modern kitchen and bathroom facilities, before it was opened up to the public for the first time as part of a house tour. And in 1957, the house was sold to William Gilmer, who was the great-great-great-grandson of Parke Poindexter. In 1958, William Gilmer's two sons embarked on another restoration of the house, and the Gilmer family would be the last individuals to actually call Castlewood home as a private residence. And then in the 1970s, Chesterfield County Board of Supervisors granted a permit for the house to be used by the Heritage Savings and Loan as its bank office. And this house was used for the bank from 1977 until 1990. In 1992, Chesterfield County purchased the house for use as county offices, and since 1998, Castlewood has been the administrative offices and reference library for the Chesterfield Historical Society of Virginia until 2013, when the house was closed for a major renovation both inside and out. And the Historical Society thankfully did not have to move very far. They just relocated directly across the road from where we are here at Historic Trinity Church. And the plans will be for the Historical Society to utilize this beautiful, restored, historic home once again for a variety of different historical programs and activities.